Okay guys, welcome back after that short break. I hope you enjoyed that comfort break. Okay, we will now look at calculating probability. So what is important when we calculate probability? Obviously, we will need the formula. Okay, so I indicated here, the formula for calculating probability is where we take the number of favorable outcomes divided by the total number of possible outcomes, right? So favorable outcomes divided by total number of possible outcomes. So let's quickly get straight into this. So at question 1, I'm saying, Mr. Ndaba must submit display information to Success High School for them to successfully register for the High School Rugby Sevens series. Now there's a statement that indicates the weather forecast predicts 0.65% chance of rain for the day of the final of the High School Rugby Sevens series. Okay, so there's our context. So the first question here says, write down the probability, right, of the rainfall as a percentage. And I hope you can see what I'm doing here. I'm indicating the important words, right, that guides me. It also indicates show your calculations. Okay, so remember, if I look at the forecast here, the prediction, right, it says 0.65. Okay, so that is a decimal. But our answer should be in which format? It must be written as a percentage. Okay, so what will I say now? I will say 0. So it's a probability of raining. Okay, so probability of it raining is where I say it will be 0.65. Remember, I'm moving now from a decimal number to a fraction. Not to a fraction, to a percentage. And remember, whenever I want my answer to be in percentage form, I will multiply by 100. So I'll say 0.65 multiply by 100. And guys, I want you to do the calculations. Use your calculator. Get familiar with your calculator, right? So multiply by 100. So when I perform this calculation, I get an answer of 65%. Okay, so I hope that's clear. Remember, your answer should be in percentage form. What do I do when I want a percentage? I multiply by 100. That's question 1.1. So here's the same scenario. Let's look at the second question. I'm saying, does this mean that it will rain on that day? Explain your answer. Remember, we just said there's a 65% chance of it definitely raining, right? Now it's saying, does it mean that it will rain on that day? Explain your answer. So the answer here will be no. Okay, why am I saying no? Because there is still a 35% chance of it not raining, right? So therefore I'm saying here the answer is no. There is still a 35% chance of it not raining. I hope that makes sense. Remember, we work, if it's 100%, it means it's definitely. But in this case, it's not 100%. We are sitting at 65%. So therefore, there's still a 35% chance of it not raining. Let me just indicate there, of it not raining. Okay, I hope that's clear. Then question 1.3, it says, determine the probability, this time around as a decimal, of Mr. Ndaba's team winning the series if a total of 15 teams are participating in this high school rugby 7 series. Remember, it's 15 schools participating. Mr. Ndaba's team is only 1. So therefore, I'll start by saying the probability of them winning this tournament, right? If I look at it, it's 1 out of a possible 15 teams. We agree. But now my answer should be in decimal form. So now we'll say 1 divided by 15. Okay, and then I'm going to change that into a decimal. So therefore, that will be 0.0, and then it will give me 66666 all the way. So make sure that you copy this correctly. Sometimes we'll also say round it to 1 decimal, to 2 decimal, depending on what the instruction is. Guys, I hope that's clear to you. 0.666666. So make sure you copy this correctly from your calculator. Okay, then we will now be moving to our question number 2. At question number 2, I'm saying the Accelerated Schools Infrastructure Delivery Initiative, the ASIDI, of the Department of Education was created to renovate schools so that they are conducive to learning. The table shows a summary of the completed renovated projects per province. Now again, a lot of information is given, right? So let's always get familiar, understand what your table graph is all about. So here I have the table. If I look at the table, the provinces are listed here, starting at the Eastern Cape all the way to the Western Cape. Then we have inappropriate structures, right? We have, and this is now, we are referring to the problems at the school, right? Okay, then here we have water problems per province. Here we have sanitation, electrical, and then the total number of the projects. So just to give an idea, let's look at the Eastern Cape. We are saying in the Eastern Cape, we have 145 inappropriate structures in schools in that province. We have 271 schools with water problems, right? We have 171 schools with sanitation problems, 202 schools with electrical problems. So in total, the number of projects here, right, that was actually, as it says, successfully done, right, is 789. Okay, so I hope you understand this now, how this table works. And then, also, if you add all of these numbers here, you'll get the total at the bottom. Same applies to each of this, now, if we add all of these amounts. All right, now let's bring this into probability context. So the first question, it says, determine as a decimal the probability of randomly selecting a renovation project that successfully completed inappropriate structures. All right, again, a lot of information is given. It is your job to make sure you work with the correct information. Hence, I underlined what the question is all about. So we must determine the probability, right? So I'll say P. Remember, that's what we use to indicate probability. Also important, it must be written as a decimal of what? Of, right, we randomly selecting a renovation project, so it can be any of these, right? But that was successfully completed in appropriate structures. So I'm sure you'll agree with me, that is our appropriate structures, right? So remember, how do I determine probability? We get your number of favorable outcomes divided by your total number of possible outcomes. So what is the possible outcomes, total number of possible outcomes? It's 1,724. We agree, right? So therefore, I'm going to look now in the total number of inappropriate structures. And I call that my favorable outcomes now because I have to work with inappropriate structures, right? So therefore, I will say the probability, and I'm just going to say of inappropriate structures. Can I do it like that? You will know what that abbreviation is for. Inappropriate structures is where I say the favorable outcomes will be 203 over the total number of possible outcomes. That will be 1,724. Guys, I hope that is clear to you. There's one last thing that I need to do, right? I need to write my final answer as a decimal. So therefore, I will go now and I type in 203 divided by 1,724. So as a decimal, this will give me an answer of 0,11774942. All right, let me double check my answer. 0,11774942. So that is the probability of selecting a renovation project that successfully completed inappropriate structures. Right, okay, let's now move on to our next question. So question 2.2 says, determine the probability, right, as a percentage of randomly selecting a completed project at a school in KwaZulu-Natal that did not have, right, electricity or electric repairs. Round off your final answer to 2 decimal places. Right, so what is important here is we have to work with schools in KwaZulu-Natal, so there's KwaZulu-Natal. Then also that did not, right, have electric repairs, so there's our electrical repairs. And then also important is we have to work with the total number of projects in KZN. Right, so there we go. So basically we're going to work here with these values. Important is that I have to exclude the electric repairs. Right, so I'm going to work with the inappropriate structures, the water and sanitation. So my favorable outcomes therefore is then 1 plus 206 plus 103. Okay, so let's quickly add that together. It's 1 plus 206 plus 103. So that gives us a total of 310, which is now our favorable outcomes. Okay, so what is the probability? And I'm quickly going to note that down. So it's a probability of not having electrical repairs. So therefore, remember, I take my favorable outcomes divided by my total number of possible outcomes. So therefore, I know already my possible outcomes, total number of possible outcomes is 368. And here is my number of favorable outcomes. So therefore, I'm going to say 310 divided by 368. And since I want my answer to be percentage, I'll multiply this value by 100%. And that is only my unit, right? So 310 divided by 368. And that value I have to multiply by 100. So this gives me an answer of 84,2391,3043%. Right? And make sure you copy correctly. And then one last thing, I have to round off my final answer to 2 decimal places. Remember, when we round off to 2 decimal places, I look at the third digit after my decimal, right? So that is 9, which is more than 5. So therefore, this 3 here need to change to a 4. So therefore, it will become 84,24%. Guys, I hope that all makes sense. I had to round off my answer to 2 decimal places. Okay. All right, guys, I want to say thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you've learned something today, and I'm definitely looking forward to next time. See you soon.